Well, what is up, everybody? Welcome into the Hump Day Hotline on the Buffalo Rumblings Vodcast Network. My name is Joe Miller. I'm the co-host, one of the hosts of the Hump Day Hotline. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired, and that is my lovely and talented co-host over there, Jay Spence the King, who you can find, as you can see right here, at Jay Spence the King. Jay Spence, what's up?
What's up, man? Happy Hump Day.
Happy. It's Hump Day. We haven't done the Hump Day call like in a while. The Hump Day.
Hump Day.
It's been a minute since I think we've lost some energy because it's just the off season, and just as we've gotten some real football, just like that, whoosh, they cancel it a day early. So apparently, go ahead.
No, I'm with you. Go ahead, finish.
I was just going to say, apparently they've cut it short. So whatever was going on down there at One Bills Drive, they're happy. They like what they see.
I think there's a lot, at least from what we've been hearing, all the reporting, there's a lot to be excited about. Our first round pick is doing everything that he's supposed to be doing. He picked off Josh Allen today.
Yes, he did.
But then outside of that, Josh looks just as good, if not better, than he did last year. Like it's actually funny. Like the amount of reporting on Josh right now is so minimal because compared to like years before now, like we're so used to every single play. Yes. Like they're reporting on him. Now it's just like, oh, well, I mean, he's that guy. We expect him to be great. And that's a good feeling to have.
There's been a lot of cool reports, and we can get into we can almost do it by position group as we kind of just work through the MiniCamp Mania episode that is this one. Welcome to everybody that's watching online. Welcome to everybody that's listening, consuming this in podcast form after it was recorded live. And I would say the same thing that I said on Sunday night. You should join us sometime for a live episode and jump in on YouTube and jump in with the people in the chat, the regulars, as we like to call them. We can also talk about your incredible interview with T-Dot from yesterday on the Code of Conduct pod. That was fantastic. So I work out with Terrell Dotson at times. So he works out at the same gym I do. He works out at STA. So I've met him and shook his hand and said good morning and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know that if it was like, oh, do you know Joe? He'd probably be like, no, he's the red-haired guy that works out at 7. He'd probably like, oh yeah, that guy. But
he's good though, man. He's one of the coolest guys that I got a chance to ever interview so far.
Very cool. Let's start there. Let's talk about that. What were some of your, I consumed it today while I was working. I thought he was very candid. I thought your questions were fantastic, but what was your give us some thoughts, some impressions.
He's and this is no disrespect to anybody that I've ever interviewed, but his energy is just so, like you mentioned, he's so candid and he was so transparent with things. And then, he just you can tell that he's still he's hungry to learn, and he's happy to be in the league. Mm-hmm. He's happy to be in Buffalo. So like every single answer that he gave me, it was just like pure appreciation for the position that he's in.
Right.
And it just amazes me how Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott has put together such a quality group of guys like this, man. And he's awesome. He's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's wild to me, just to what you just said. It's the group of guys, the energy that all of them want to be here. Not that I think mandatory mini camp, there's probably a great deal of like 100% participation or 100% attendance. I don't think that that's necessarily unheard of anymore unless somebody's really, even Lamar Jackson showed up. So Lamar Jackson has Kyler Murray showed up. Two guys that basically said, if I don't have a deal done, I'm not coming at all. And both those guys showed up for their mini camp. So so as much as we want to champion that, it was a big deal. Like, oh, the Bills had 100% participation. I think the bigger story is that Jordan came, which we kind of knew. And then I think we were all floored and surprised when he practiced, because you actually sent the tweet to us and you're like, he's in a helmet and hitting things.
Yeah, the word that I got prior to was that he wasn't gonna practice, but he was gonna show up.
Right.
And then he must have changed his mind, which is good. I'm super happy that he decided to practice, because it shows that it matters to him, and it should matter to the other guys. Like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I want my contract, but I'm here and I'm gonna do this anyway. And I'm hoping that the team figures something out. It just makes it a little difficult now when you see Minkah Fitzpatrick getting like $18 million a year. And, everybody knows I love Jordan. Like we can't do 18 million. Like if that's going to be the asking price, it's going to be tough. I don't see the Bills being able to work that out.
Yeah. Where do you think he fits? I think I know where you think, because we were chatting, obviously, off air yesterday, I think. Right. But where do you feel like he fits?
I think like that 12 to in the middle between like that 12 and 14 range. So if it's 12, 13, or
Mhm.
14, I
Mhm.
can see that happening. Like a 3-year deal with an out for the team in the third year, depending on how they structure it. And Brandon Bean typically structures these contracts, in a way that it doesn't hurt the team in that final year. So,
Yep.
but you give him all his guaranteed money up front. You give him those, the money that he
Mhm.
wants and all that. But 18, man. I mean, when I saw that contract today, I immediately sent it to you and
Yep, yep,
Bruce, and I'm just
yep.
like, ouch, like, ouch. This
Yeah,
is not gonna work.
it's wild to me on a number of levels, which you and I discussed a little bit, and I think I'm in the same space. What's wild, first of all, is the Bills have 2 listed strong safeties, and I did my show on Sunday, and I talked a lot about Poyer and just his
Mhm.
contract situation and who he was to this team and how bad I wanted him here and how bad I want him to retire Buffalo Bill. It was wild to listen to Terrell Dodson talk about his impact on this football team and how important he is. I think he did, right? Or am I mistaking him with
Nope.
another interview? Yeah.
Nope, he talked about him.
Yep. Micah Hyde talked a lot about just Jordan as well, and all the players have as far as that goes. I think Von Miller possibly spoke about him in his presser. Clearly McDermott did. But what I missed in my research and my studying for Sunday's show was that the Bills have Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer listed as strong safeties. Neither one of them is a free safety. So when I did all of my work around Jordan, it was based off of the strong safety position, where those numbers fell. I said it to you. Oh, he's top 5 in like all the safety money. And you're like, actually, he's not. And I was like, wait a second. So then I
Yeah.
had to go back. Sure enough, the free safeties, if you're listed as a free safety, the numbers are much different. And he's not even in the top 7 or 8, I think.
Yeah.
And then it turns into, well, what position does he play? Well, they play both. Him and just like Tremaine and Matt Milano, they play both. So that's a little strange. And then it turns into, well, how do you value that? His age is clearly a factor versus Minka Fitzpatrick, who's 26 years old. He's clearly a vocal leader on this defense, and his importance and relevance to the defense hasn't changed with the signing of Minka Fitzpatrick. I don't know where the Bills go from here. And then the last thing I guess I would throw out there is you and I were talking about as well, is just I don't know how it benefits these guys. And I mean this in I feel bad for them way. It's the Bean deal. And that's, it's the brand, because I think Brandon Bean was one of the first guys that we knew that was doing it, where, hey, we signed him to a 4-year deal and like Bean can get out of it in year 3 or 4. And all the money's in the back end. He signed him to a 3-year deal and Bean can get out of it in year 3 and all the money's in year 3. I don't know how it behooves Jordan to sign a contract where it's like, well, we're going to give you 3 years, pick a number. So $45 million to get him in at 15. It's going to have a signing bonus of, I don't know, pick a number, $15 million and base salary low year 1, base salary low year 2. And then like year 3, there's $20 million and he gets cut and loses all that money. I just don't know. I think that's where I'd love to get in the head, not on a show, not on a program like this, where the world's hearing it. I would just love to know from a player standpoint, their thoughts on that, because I know $45 million is generational money. I mean, that's changing somebody's grandchildren's lives. I don't know. It's just, do you have a thought on that?
Well, no, I mean, and I know I agree with you on everything you just said, but I mean, I would love to have somebody on who's able to be honest about that in a public setting, because I
Yeah.
think as a fan, it's interesting as a fan, like, every year, and I know this is the first year now with this group of guys where we have any type of contract situation, because it seems like Brandon Bean always makes it work. But
Mm-hmm.
all around the league, you always have these guys. You just mentioned Lamar Jackson, you mentioned whoever, but every year there's somebody who's either going to hold out or
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's not happy with their contract. And then we look at these different structures of contracts that we see, and it's like, well, how do the players feel about this? It's like, yeah, you get the security because you get the 4-year deal, or you get this, but then you don't get, I would love to hear from a player's perspective in a public forum where we can actually, and maybe I'll talk to some retired players or something like that to see if they can kind of be open about that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm with you.
So Charles says, if I'm being offered the Matthew deal, well, here's the problem. I said the same thing. The Matthew deal was 3 years, $28.5 million, which is $9 million a year average. And that's literally what Jordan's making right now. And Jordan wants to make more than that. And I would say he probably does. Here's a good question. Where do you put him against Tyron? I mean, they're similar. What, Matthew's 29 or 30, Jordan's 31. It's hard for me to believe that Matthew's 30 or 29 years old, that he's that late in his career already, because it felt like he just got in the league. Is that just me? Did he enter the league late?
To me, it feels like he's been in the league for a while now. I mean,
Oh,
he's
really?
been on
Wow.
what, like 16, not literally 6, but he's been around the league now. It's like, man, but
It feels like he just ended. But anyways, where do you put him? I would say that league wide, and you can call this the Buffalo effect, he probably has a different reputation. Dare I say a little bit of a better reputation with the fans. People know who the Honey Badger is, probably because of college, more so than they know who Jordan Poyer is. And that shows itself every year, the Pro Bowl, because Jordan doesn't get sent to the Pro Bowl. Where do you place those two next to each other?
That's a good question. That's based off of last year, obviously I'm going to say Jordan's top 3. He was an all-pro player, first team all-pro. So based off last year, he's a top 3 guy for his position. There are other guys that I would pick before I pick Honey Badger. But I still think that he's a phenomenal player. He's a great defensive player. He hits hard. He does everything that you want a safety to do. But to me, he's just not like, he's the name now. He's not the premier guy anymore, but he's the name.
Yeah. What's wild about that is the Bills almost have to tread lightly too, because PFF ranked, and I talked about this on Sunday, they ranked the best overall safety. So that means versus the run, versus the pass, doing your job. Jordan was number 4. So the best of all the safeties in the league, the best overall safeties, Jordan was number 4. Micah was number 3. And what's interesting about that is if Jordan gets paid, guess who's knocking on Brandon Beane's door next?
Yeah. But to me, that's where I would have the two of them. I would keep their contracts the same. And I know there's a debate, obviously, like, well, Jordan's 31, so he's closer to the end of his career. And then, I mean, if you talk to Jordan, he'll tell you, well, I don't have the same type of wear and tear. I don't have the mileage on my body that a lot of players did. So 31 doesn't mean anything. So it depends on the way you're going to attack this argument. For me, the way I look at it as right now, the window to me is longer than 2 years.
Right.
But I feel like we have a very, very good opportunity in these next 2 years. And I don't want to make something that's a strength into a weakness when you're walking into this window. And right now we by far have the best safety tandem in the league. And you don't, when Trey White went down, the defense didn't skip a beat because of that safety tandem.
Right.
I just would be very hesitant to I would be very hesitant to do that. Shout out to my man Daryl. So for everybody who doesn't know, Budda Baker is my favorite safety. So I would pick Budda Baker over any of those guys. But that's the dude is he's ridiculous, man. Do you I know you watch the Cardinals sometimes.
Yeah.
Dude,
I'm familiar.
Insane.
Yeah, he's
man.
good, and he's made some plays against the Buffalo Bills. So yeah,
I was mad at him.
I was mad at him. Well, are you going to be a season ticket holder for the Cardinals this year as well?
Oh, for sure. As long as I'm here, I'm gonna be a season ticket holder.
Gotcha. 1 seat, 2 seats. What did you do?
Oh, my man Rick and we're gonna go to. Rick has been on the show before.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah. So Rick and I we're gonna be going this season.
That's awesome.
Some good times. Yeah.
Good for you. That's fantastic. So yeah, the Jordan thing. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I don't want. Man, I guess it's a two-edged sword. So if I'm this whole content creation piece, right? So, and you're feeling it now too, because as much as I've got a soft spot in my heart for Isaiah Hodgins, and we'll talk about Isaiah in a minute because Matt Perino was glowing about him yesterday in his post-practice report. You are that way now with Jordan. You and Jordan are you kind of have a soft spot for Jordan. And now clearly those two players are not on the same level. So that's not what I'm talking about at all. Jordan is a first team all pro. Isaiah is trying to cut his teeth in the league. He's trying to make the football team. It's two totally different people. But what's weird about being a content creator is you grow. I don't know what the word is. You become friends with them. You have a soft spot in them, and your objectivity begins to wane a little bit. And you've called me out on that before, and that's fair. And what I would say is so on that side of it, I want to see Jordan make his money. The hard part is I don't want it to be a detriment to the team, but the fan in me says, maybe I want to see him on his last year of his contract this year and see him play like a man on fire. playing for his next deal.
And that's fair. But the thing is, he played like a man on fire last year.
He did.
We don't see years from Jordan Poyer or Micah Hyde that they're not playing at a high level.
True.
So like, while I agree with that, because I get that, like in basketball, it's like, well, no, this guy's on a contract year. So let's see what he does in the playoffs. So I'm with you. But when it comes to a guy like Jordan, to me, it's like on defense, that's the equivalent of a guy like Stephon Diggs on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like Diggs is bringing it every year. It doesn't matter if it's the first year on his contract or the last year. So when you have a guy like that consistently overperforms the amount of money that you're giving him, to me, it wouldn't be like let's just see what it's. It wouldn't matter to me. Like, but I try my hardest still to be like super honest. And like even at the beginning of the show, it's like, I want them to figure this out with Jordan, but if it's 18, I don't know, because in all honesty, like him, there's other positions coming up in the future that we know we're going to have to address. And really safety is one of them. We're going to have to draft, or we're going to have to find somebody in free agency to take care of it. I don't know. I don't know, man. It's just tough because, like I said, you're looking at this right now. It's a strength on our team.
Right.
And it's just, that's the difficult part. It's not even that I love him or love Micah or love Trey. The thing is, it's a strength, and it's something that you don't worry about on a Sunday morning when you wake up before the games. You don't worry about our secondary.
Yeah.
Going into games last year and the year before, one of the things that I used to worry about was our run stopping. So it was the defensive line that I would talk about. It would be the linebackers. Yeah. I never came onto a show like, well, my key for victory is we need the safeties to step up, because they step up every game. So I don't know. It just makes it tough when you have two guys perform like that, but then you also have the business side of it. And it's like, okay, do you want to take a couple steps back with a guy that's not as good, or a guy that doesn't have the same experience, or do you want to go ahead and pay the guy and then cut your losses elsewhere?
What do you think? What do you think about when I say this? And this is just me thinking about what you're saying, because I love everything that you're saying, but it makes me think, and I devil's advocate a little bit. The biggest difference between Minkah Fitzpatrick, right, and a lot of the other guys is it's the interceptions. And Jordan is usually good for somewhere between 3 to 5 a year, but it's not the same, and they're not at the same moments, it seems like, as those guys that get those bigger contracts. So when you correlate it from offense to defense, Stephon Diggs is special. And I'm not saying that Jordan's not special, but Stephon Diggs is, like, when you I tweeted this yesterday. I retweeted the Bills' little post, or somebody's little post about like Josh Allen throwing the football. And when you watch Gabriel Davis catch the football, when you watch Isaiah McKenzie catch the football, when you watch anybody catch the football, it does not look the same as when Stephon Diggs catches a football. There's just a smoothness. It's just a different, I don't even know what the word is. There's a way that he glides, right? So Clyde the Glide Drexler, there's just a way that his body works that just is in a different stratosphere. And Devontae Adams is that way. There's a top 2, 3, 4 guys that are that way. This defense is chock full of really, really, really good players that are really, really, really easy to like. We have Von Miller now, but there's nobody out there, and maybe Trey's cracking that a little bit if we remove Von Miller, but there's nobody that's at that Minkah Fitzpatrick level where the world, like the nation, knows Minkah's name because of what he's done, the interceptions he's made, the plays that he's made in like crucial times. There's a gap right between Minkah, and it's not just age, and Jordan. And I think Minkah is a free safety, is he not? He's not a strong safety. He's a free safety. So it's a different position. What his requirements are. Yes, I don't know. I'm just rambling now. I don't know if anything that I just said strikes a nerve with you, but yeah, it's just.
No, I think the difference is because I mean, I do see Micah and Jordan and Trey as big time players. So the difference on offense, obviously, Stephon, he makes plays and they're flashy, and they, and the connection between him and Josh is always talked about on national shows, and like it's the sexy thing to watch. So like you hear about them and his name is different. But in Buffalo, I think it's still, even with the team being as good as we are, and even you really don't hear people really praising the number 1 overall defense from last year.
No.
Like it's almost still like we were the number 1 defense, but it was very quiet. Mm-hmm. It was like under the radar. And so I think because of that, they're not looked at as big names, and because we're not in a huge market. But I mean, I do see them like that. I honestly do. It's just, again, like you mentioned, it's the gift and the curse of being in a smaller market like Buffalo.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Terrell Dotson, back to the interview, you challenged him on, can this defense be better? And he was without hesitation, yes. And you were like, yes.
Well, because and like, so he's talking about, he's like, I watched game film from last season. There's so much meat on the bone. Like there's plays that we missed, and there's this and there's that. And it's just like, dude, how much more dominant could you really have been? Like, and some of the things that he pointed out, absolutely. I could absolutely see, again, one of the issues was stopping the run last year.
Mm-hmm.
Every big game that we ended up losing came down to the running back either having a big play or a consistently big day where they were doing things that, wasn't getting done in the passing offense. Tom Brady destroyed us like in that first half, but the passing defense fixed it in the second half. So it's just like, I don't understand like how much more he's like, man, there's so, and then I watched, who was it that I watched today? It was another defensive player, and he had the same type of terminology. He's like, yeah, there's meat on the bone from last season, and we want to be more down. And I'm just like, okay, it must be a McDermott thing, another processy thing.
Version of myself. Tavon Austin, first interview that he has with the press. I just try to be the best version of myself. It's like, I've heard this before.
It's like, oh, where did I hear this before? But I love it though, because when you have all those guys speaking the same language, man, like that lets you know that the goal is the same. And a lot of guys, even with Jordan showing up and all that stuff, you're seeing that it's really not about me. Like,
right.
Each guy, Jordan wants his money, but at the end of the day, hey, we got something bigger than the contract this year. So I'm, my agent and stuff will fight with the front office here, but when it's time to play, man, I'm here for it, and I just love it. I love the energy that everybody's bringing.
Yeah, I do too. It's going to be, dude. It's going to be a hell of a year. I don't understand how I can have greater expectation and anticipation than I had over last year, but I do. Daryl Fletcher, our guy, welcome to the show, or actually welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for the comment. Minka has that first round sticker too, which put him on the radar immediately. That's already a built-in advantage when comparing him. It's true, but it's just Minka was a star in Miami, right? I mean, Minka was when Minka got traded to the did he get traded or did he run to the Steelers? Whatever. When he went to the Steelers, it was a big deal. Traded when it was a big deal. I would venture to guess that if the Bills traded Jordan Poyer, I don't know that I think it hits the news, right? So Ian Rappaport, these guys are talking about it, but it was a big deal on all the shows when Minka got traded to the Steelers.
I just think it's perception. It's the way it's looked at, because right now in Buffalo, we trade let's say we trade Trey White. It's going to make the news. It's going, but after one news cycle, they'll be done talking about it.
Right.
Miami, even though it seems like their fans
don't show up to football games,
it's still Miami, and it's like everybody loves Miami and everybody wants to talk about Miami. Like right now, we're still talking about Tyreek Hill, which we should be, but we're still talking about Tyreek Hill. When Stephon Diggs was traded here in Buffalo, we were excited, but nobody was talking about that trade up until we started to see the magic from Josh and Stephon during the season.
Right.
Like after it first happened, you had Vikings fans, bitter Vikings fans, and you had Bills fans. Outside of that, nobody was talking about Diggs, but it was a hell of a trade, and it was a major trade. Now, he's a superstar because of it. I just think it's the same thing, man. Buffalo, and you know what? Let's keep Buffalo a secret. Let's just keep us a secret. I don't care.
Let's build up the waterfront and make it an attraction and a better quality of life for all of Western New Yorkers. And yes, keep it a secret at the same time.
Let's build up the East Side too.
And that too. Yeah. And that's not a this or. That's a this and.
They can be done I wasn't saying it was.
Time. Right. I know that.
Yeah.
But I've actually I've thought a lot about this when you and I have conversed. And that's something that's never, like, I've always gotten off the phone and been like, wait a second. Like, and we've never really said it. Like, this is like the entire city. Like, can be invested in and built up. It doesn't have to be, well, we got to choose this one thing. It doesn't have to be
consistently. I'm just going to consistently put pressure there. Like every time anybody brings up anything, I'm going to make sure I say everything outside of downtown in Buffalo needs to look good, needs to feel good. The people that live in those areas need to be proud of the things that they have around their homes. They need to feel safe. The kids need good quality education. We need grocery stores in every part of the city with quality food, fresh vegetables. fresh fruit, all that stuff needs to happen. Sorry, but I just want to make sure we get that out there, man. Like,
no, it's good.
We have to
keep it coming. Keep it coming, and whatever we got to do while we're doing that, let's get the NFTA to release its stranglehold on the waterfront, the most underdeveloped waterfront in the entire country. So moving on to minicamp. So there was a lot of things that stuck out, things that we've read, things that we saw. You and I clearly were not there. We don't have press credentials, and you are in Arizona. But there was a lot of people that have flashed, one of them being James Cook. Was there anything that stuck out from what you heard, saw, read, listened to about James Cook that stuck out to you?
I'd tell you what, Motor and Moss might need to they might need to really push themselves on some things, because I feel like everything that I'm hearing about James Cook is that he's electric. That he's very, very smart. He knows how to size up his blocks to maximize each play. And I'm gonna tell you, if we get a firecracker out the backfield to go along with the Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis and Dawson Knox and OJ, if we can get a firecracker out the backfield to go with that, I'm gonna tell you, it might turn into one of those situations where we have a like we actually have a guy that's getting the majority of snaps.
It'll be interesting to see, because we hear the body type stuff, right? And I don't want to buy into it, because and I can go back in time, because he doesn't have, and I get made fun of on Twitter for saying this. He doesn't have the thighs that'll cross your eyes. He doesn't have those Dalvin Cook thighs. He doesn't have those gigantic, right? But you look at a guy like Robert Smith. Do you remember Robert Smith from the Vikings? Who left football after I think 7 years or 8 years to become a doctor? That dude didn't have a prototypical RB1 body type either, and he was when fantasy drafts happened, he was going in the first round. He was an RB1 for the Vikings. I believe he can, and that's with me not having seen him play a down of NFL football. And when you hear reports like we've heard from Tuesday's mini camp session, that he was beating the likes of Matt Milano, that he was by Matt Milano before Matt Milano kind of knew what happened. And Matt's our number one cover linebacker, who, by the way, is considered really, really good.
As far as cover linebackers, he's considered like a top 5 cover linebacker in the league. So now, again, this is 7-on-7s, or like the pads aren't on. But what Joe is saying is absolutely right. Like, everything that we're hearing is that this guy he's coming in, he's providing a spark in a way that we haven't seen out the backfield. And listen, I love Motor, I love Zach. I want both those guys to succeed. We've been waiting for an electric. To your point though about his size, correct me if I'm wrong, and I could just be kind of remembering things incorrectly, but like Curtis Martin wasn't huge.
No, well, he had a lower body that was bigger, so he had, but yes, he wasn't enormous. So the problem with Cook, with James, is he's, what is he, an inch taller than his brother? He's 10 pounds lighter than his brother. Now you think, well, 10 pounds, that's not that big of a deal, but I think he carries his weight different. So what they're wanting, so think Raheem Mostert, think, more of that slender body type as far as that goes. Probably Matt Breida is a little bit more of a slender body type. So they can be heavier, but they don't have those big, fat, thick driving legs that for some reason, that's what the Devin Singletary body. That's not how he's built. And I don't mean height. I just mean
right. I get
girth, right?
Oh man, it's hump day. I'm just saying, like, you're
girth is not a bad word.
I didn't say it was a bad word. It's just it's hump day, and like you say girth, we gotta.
Oh my gosh, that's why those porn bots keep showing up in our comments section.
Because it's the hump day hotline, so they're thinking that's what the show is about.
The word is hump. We might have to change the name of the show, dude. Like literally every week. It's becoming every week thing. Everybody's jumping on me now. Pam, you spelled it wrong, Pam. It's with an E.
Yeah, pause. We got to pause.
I think Daryl Fletcher has thrown the pause word in there every week for like the last several weeks. So
I mean, it's so easy to do on the show, and we don't even try to do that. We don't try. But yeah, so back to it, man. It's I'm excited. I think the offense is actually going to be more explosive than last season, which is crazy to say.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be pedal to the metal. Everything I'm hearing about Ken Dorsey, pedal to the metal. Like they want to, and I don't think it's going to be one of those things where, we would complain at times like, man, we're ahead. Why are we, taking the foot off the gas and letting these?
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen this year. I don't.
Right. We're going to find out. The age-old question last year was, who is the conservative one? Is it Brian Daboll or is it Sean McDermott? Because the Bills offense early in the season would come out, or at different times in the last several years would come out and putter and sputter and like not put points on the board kind of at the level that we need them to. And you would hear Sean McDermott say in the press conference, kicking field goals ain't going to win football games. We got to score points. We got to score touchdowns. But he's a defensive head coach, and the moniker that goes with a defensive head coach always is, if I can win the game by 1 point, I won the game. And that's the best way to win football. Like, for some reason, defensive head coaches, we've been told or whatever, it's been sold on us that like they believe that winning by 30 points is not a good win. If you win by 1 point, then that's a good win, 14-13 or something like that. So if they come out and it's guns blazing, it's going to lend credence to that idea that Daboll may have been the one that at times was kind of holding this offense back. The second down and 10 run calls, the second down and 11 or 9 run calls, like things like that they did more than anybody else in the league last year early in the season before, they kind of got pressed against the wall and needed to make stuff happen. I was talking about it earlier. I said
you give off the soccer dad vibes. Pam says, for those listening by podcast form, Pam says Joe is giving out coach vibes in his outfit. He has the classic, the dad hat on with he's absolutely looking like a coach right now.
With the quarter neck or whatever it's called, the crop neck or in the zipper. You guys are funny. But it's going to be interesting to see. I love what I hear. It brings up a great point that is being brought up in minicamp as well. Gabe Davis was asked about it, I think, last week. Dorsey being on the sideline versus in the booth. And Josh Allen said in his presser, there's times that I'm going to have to calm him down, and there's times that he's going to have to calm me down. I didn't like that as much because as I didn't want to buy into, you and I talked about it years ago, because there was a podcast that went out that is no longer in existence where they were talking about Josh Allen coming out too hyped up. That he was out of control when the games would start in like 2019. So his second year.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to
get hit.
Right. And I didn't believe that. Like I was like, there's nobody that's ever said that. He has never said that. That's total speculation. It's conjecture. Like, we're just assuming that he's coming out way too wired. And then sure enough, it comes out. He says it. I've got the playlist with Elvis on it and Frank Sinatra to calm me down, blah, 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 blah. And it has made a really, really big difference. The last thing I want to see on the sideline is somebody that's not a calming presence. And that's the question. Is Dorsey going to be a calming presence for him? Or are they going to feed off of each other? Which could be not great.
I don't know. I love it. I love the energy. I love the nerves. I love all that stuff. And he was actually, there was I think for the golf tournament that he was in as well, he mentioned that he throws up before the game. It might not have been a golf thing, but it was a interview recently where he was saying like he throws up before the game.
It was the match. Maybe I need to go throw up.
So, I mean, I just think, certain players have their certain little rituals that they do. And for Josh, he's kind of wired and he just doesn't feel like he's a part of the game until he gets hit, which to me is a bad thing. But if that's what it takes to turn the Jets on, then hey, let's get it, bring it on.
Yeah, we might have to change the name of this show, dude. I don't know. It's like the logo stays the same. How do they keep reposting, or how are they making new accounts? How are the bots making new YouTube accounts that fast? I guess is the question that I have.
Maybe they just have a list of them and they get blocked, so they jump into another one or something.
I don't know. It's annoying. The Chinese bots are driving me crazy, but it is what it is. But so anyways, it still remains to be seen as to what you still spelled it wrong. Pam says, thanks, Joe, for saying girth. Laugh out loud. It's GERTH. Anyways, it'll be interesting to see. Kelly used to throw up. That's right. That was actually one of the big things. So sidebar, they wouldn't come out of the locker room, or there was something that they wouldn't do as a team. And Fina could probably corroborate the story until Kelly threw up. And then Kent Hull had to say 12's ready. Well, 12's ready, like is what he would say. And everybody knew that. So Kelly would throw
I never
up.
heard that.
Yeah.
I heard that he was hungover once and had to throw up like at the
No.
Super Bowl. I don't know how true that was or wasn't, but I mean that's stuff that I heard.
I think they were all hungover at one or two of the Super Bowls, but he threw up from nerves before every football game. So I think that's a pretty common thing that a lot of players probably don't talk about. But
yeah,
getting back to Dorsey and Allen, what do you have a preference? Sideline, booth? We saw it make a difference with Dable, although it made a difference in Buffalo. I don't know where Dable was when he was with New England. I don't know where Dable was when he was at Alabama. When in Buffalo, he started out on the sideline, and then I think either he decided or McDermott threw him up in the box. Do you have a preference?
I don't really have a preference. I think, well, no, you know what? I guess I do. I would like it to be somebody on the sideline because I feel like the communication. I don't know the rules, so maybe before I say this, I should learn that. But for me, I would like to see Josh Allen be able to come off the side or come off the field and be right on the sideline and get some good teaching and talking to right there, as opposed to it going through several guys. I want the two top guys, so Josh and Ken, to be able to just get it right there on the sideline.
Yeah,
but,
eye to eye. There was one of the comments I think either Ken made or Allen made that like being eye to eye, but Gabe Davis was completely against it. He's like, there is no way that Ken Dorsey can be on the sideline because and then it was Mitch Morse too. Mitch Morse talked about the phrase he used was that the Holy Spirit comes out of him, which I'm guessing just means that he gets very demonstrative and very just kind of like energetic as far as that goes. So even Mitch Morse was like, he cannot be on the sideline. Wide receivers. There's been a lot of wide receiver conversation to include Isaiah Hodgins. Kind of, you can't say picking up where he left off, but you kind of can say picking up where he left off because of the injuries. So he came into OTAs and mini camp, and I don't remember when they shut him down his rookie year, but he was kind of like the flavor of the moment back then. In what was that? Was it 2020? It was 2020, right?
Yep.
And then they shut him down for the shoulder injury that he had coming out of college. We're talking about a guy that came from Oregon State, big program. I don't think he dropped a football his senior year in college, was very good. Drafted in the 6th round. We got Gabe Davis round 4 or 5. I can't remember which off the top of my head. Chris Jenke's in the room. I'm sure he knows the encyclopedia. And flashed, and then they shut him down. And then he got hurt again last year in preseason. But Matt Perino was pining on and on in his podcast yesterday just about him owning. Now, again, the second team defense, he wasn't out there against, Trey. He wasn't out there against Kair Elam, but he was very much making it obvious that anybody that was trying to cover him yesterday was having a very, very difficult time, whether it was just his body size or just his shake and getting off of, the contact that they were giving him. And then he's a sure-handed receiver. And it kind of, it's the way that Matt said it. And I don't know if you listened to it yesterday, but he's basically framing himself or putting himself back in that conversation, which you and I talked about last week. That what do the Bills do? And you almost got to wonder if there's a trade coming, right? Is it a situation? They're clear. I mean, you don't cut those guys, do you? Do you trade them? If you're stacked at wide receiver, do you just let a guy walk out the room?
I wouldn't, but at the same time, it's like it's gonna be a problem somewhere on this roster. So whether it's wide receiver, whether it's defensive line, whether it's offensive line, whether it's running back, regardless of somewhere, we're gonna see a guy get cut somewhere that is a very good player, and we're gonna be scratching our heads because it's like, well, wait, he's good.
Yep.
That's just the type of roster that Brandon Beane has put together. So. And I agree with everybody in the comments, especially my guy, Renaissance Man, saying that he want to see him go off in camp in preseason. I want to see everybody succeed. The tough thing is, man, we got a rookie this year in the 5th round that probably should have been drafted in the 3rd. We got obviously the usual suspects coming back in Diggs and Davis, and
3 guys that aren't getting cut: Crowder, Davis, and Diggs not getting cut.
So you have those guys, so you want them to succeed. You want to see Isaiah McKenzie get a greater role in the offense, and you want to see him do some things. It's just tough.
Today, Matt Perino, Matt and Ryan on New York Stayed Up on their Shout podcast. Matt Perino was talking about Tavon Austin. The Tavon Austin was showing up in camp today. Not only was he showing up in camp, but he was on the sideline being very vocal and being very coachy and very encouraging, which this staff loves. They love those guys that are in it and leaders, and right, that What a problem to have. What a problem to have.
I still think Austin's way on his roster is the return job.
Punt returns.
I still think that's his way on the roster, but even still, like the competition in the wide receiver room is going to make other guys up their game and say, okay, if we, it's going to be tough. It's really going to be tough, man. Like, I feel like we're going to be having this conversation in a month and a half, and somebody's going to be upset. And next week, I forgot we should have did the defense side today, but I didn't. We hadn't really talked. It's okay. Next week we can finish.
We'll do the defense next week. It makes more sense to do defense next week with mini camps going on this week. Real football things are happening. Yeah. Let's talk about real football things. What about so apparently they are rotating the defensive line. So I haven't heard. Did you catch any reports? Did you catch any feedback? Any questions or answers from the players on the defensive line rotation at all? Because my understanding is they rotated today. Oh no! I mean, everything that I'm hearing is that the Bills fully believe that they're going to continue their philosophy, and we're just going to be mad about Von Miller, but I don't care. Like, I'm happy about it. I think that we want to keep this guy healthy as possible until the playoffs. So, Von, get over it, man. I love you. Get over it. We want you for the play. You're here to be the closer in the playoffs. So yeah, get out your feelings, bro. Yeah, it's just tough. It's just you gotta wonder, right? So if it's week 8, 6, it probably won't take to week 8. Week 6, 5, 6. The Bills are, I don't know, I'm gonna pick a number. Week 6, 4-2. But Von Miller isn't playing at his best. And if they're asking him the question, is it the scheme? Are you not in the playbook enough? Do you not understand assignments? Are you tweaked? Is it injury? If he says, no, man, the problem is I'm playing 48% of the snaps. I need to be in the game. Do they give him a chance to play 80%? I hope not. Really? Even if it's affecting his play in a negative way? I don't want him injured come January. Like, to me, it's really about being the healthiest team at the right time. If you're the healthiest team and you're clicking at the right time, that's how you win a Super Bowl. Cincinnati, they made it to the Super Bowl because they were clicking at the right time. I want him to be in that mix to click at the right time. But it's about what you're talking about is rhythm. What if at 48% he can't find his rhythm? If Von Miller, like the dude who is Von Miller that just signed his huge contract with the Bills, that's won 2 Super Bowls, one with the Broncos, one with the Rams. If Von Miller, like all pro Von Miller, this multiple time Pro Bowl Von Miller, can't perform without playing 80% of the game, he doesn't deserve the contract that he got. You say that's how I feel. All the greats don't come out. Aaron Donald doesn't come out of the football game. Bruce Smith never came out of the football game. It was a different philosophy. Reggie White never came out of the football game. I get it. It's a different philosophy and it's not fun. But the thing is like that's the reason why they have such a deep defensive line roster. You have 7 or 8 guys who can really play. That's the reason. So if you have to be the guy, no, man, no. January we'll talk about the 70 or 80% of the snaps. But right now, man, just get out here and let's get through these 17 weeks. To me, there is no way that they go into next year rotating at 40. That's a luxury. I've said it this will be my 3rd year in a row. I've said it. You've been here the whole time. There's no way that they can afford this luxury next year with the salary cap going to 228 or 225, and they're already at 228. And they've got it's 5. As much as I've always done the show, 4-man enter, 1-man leave. It's 5 5-men enter, 2-men leave. Basically, it's Singletary, Knox, Tremaine Edmonds, Jordan Poyer, and who am I missing? Ed Oliver, all up for contracts. And Dawson Knox is probably going to get paid. Who did I see post? Somebody tweeted today a poll or yesterday about who do you keep, Knox or Davis? I would pose that question to you. Both of them. So Knox continues his progression and he becomes a top 3, top 4 tight end in the NFL. So undisputed top 3, top 4 tight end of the NFL. Not the best, top 3, top 4. Mark Andrews-esque, right? So Mark Andrews isn't Travis Kelce, but he's not, pick some schmuck that's on a losing football team. So top 3, top 4. Gabriel Davis becomes he breaks out So he continues what he did in Kansas City within reason. Obviously, he's not going to have 4 touchdowns and 200 yards every football game. But he breaks out and he becomes the top 10 wide receiver. Both of them are up for contracts. Which one are you keeping?
I'm keeping the wide receiver.
Really?
Yeah.
You're going to have to break that down for me. Break that down for me.
I'm looking at the way the team operates. So when you look at the offense, the bulk of the yards go to receivers. Knox is awesome. Knox is young. If Knox took another step forward, and we're seeing Knox consistently have those 75-yard games, he cracks 100 a couple times. He has some, like, if we get those Travis Kelce type performances, yeah, I'll keep Knox. And because that means,
well, that's what I just said. So he's in
but I'm saying based off of what we've seen, Davis, and before it was Davis, obviously you're talking about Cole, and you're talking about, depending on the year, you got your number 2 receiver, whether that be Emmanuel Sanders or whether that be John Brown. But the way it's been a wide receiver league, and it's been a wide receiver team for the Bills. If Knox takes that step forward and he changes the composition or the way this team is like putting the yards up and scoring, then yeah, I'm gonna take Knox. But the way it's going, everything that we're seeing is that the Bills are fully invested in making Gabe Davis a star. That's what we see.
This is the problem. I agree with you. On everything you just said makes sense. And if we were sitting at a bar on 2 bar stools and like broing it up like we do and have done, and you and I love each other, even if we didn't even know each other, we could have that conversation and it all makes sense over beers. The problem is name 5 of the best wide receivers in Buffalo Bills history.
Are you asking me to do that?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah.
Obviously Andre Reed,
yep.
Eric Moulds.
I'm going
to throw Diggs in there.
Yep.
Lofton, you'll probably throw in
Lofton,
there.
Yep. There's a myriad of them. Whether it's
for me, it'd be a debate between Lee Evans and Stevie,
Don Beebe, Jerry Butler. Like the list.
I would probably go Lee Evans.
I think I would too. My point is, there's a lot. Now name the top 5 tight ends that have ever played for the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
You almost can't get to 1. Name the top 2. Are we really talking about? Oh, geez, his name just escaped me. All he does is catch touchdowns. I just met him this summer or this past fall. Butch Roll. I mean, is that really is Butch Roll a top 3 tight end because all he did was like go in for goal line situations and he caught 9 or 12 touchdowns in his career? Like that's what we're talking about right now. Pete Metzelaars and then Scott Chandler. Is that the list?
Jay
Reamersma. So I think for me, as I pondered this question, because I was with you, I was like, the Bills have never hit on a tight end, ever. That to me seems like if you hit a home run on that guy, you keep that guy.
I hear you, and I even see some of the comments saying that Davis is more easily replaced, and they will keep the tight end. And I hear you, but I'm gonna just tell you, when you look around the league, unless you're there's maybe 3 or 4 teams that use the tight end position perfectly, so we're talking about the Baltimore Ravens. They use their tight end wonderfully. You talk about the San Francisco 49ers. You talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Those teams use tight ends like that. The Buffalo Bills use wide receivers like that. We don't use the tight end that way.
Agreed.
So if we're going to say, and Jessica, shout out to Jessica for the super chat. We appreciate you. She said Knox is the glue of the defense, not Davis. I'm sorry. Offense. I'm sorry. I disagree. Like I feel like everything, like from what we've seen in Knox's career up to this point, we've seen him take steps, but we've also been more upset with Knox than we have been with Davis.
Year 1 and 2, not so much last year. Year 1 and 2, okay. which we could. When I'm thinking glue, I'm changing the subject. I'm changing where I'm going with that comment, because I was going to make a comparison that I don't like even before I said it. So when I'm thinking glue, Josh Allen is the glue of this offense. Josh Allen, you put Kirk Cousins in this offense, maybe not this year because the offensive line should be better between the pieces that they've brought in. Aaron Cromer, this offensive line should be able to keep a guy upright. You put Kirk Cousins, you put a guy less mobile behind that offensive line for the last 2 seasons, that offense isn't doing what that offense did. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I agree.
Agree. It's Josh Allen is the glue. The object now is to keep him upright and keep him from taking less hits. And when he does run, he's the one hitting people versus being hit. But I just don't know how, I just don't know. I mean, what does it mean to the offense if he has if Knox catches 1,000 yards this season? What is it? Is the focus of the offense changed? Is it more? It's not tight end centric. That's not the word, right?
Well, it would be if you have a tight end catch 1,000 yards. You would say that he's a focal point of the offense. And then again, to some of the comments in here, they make sense. I agree. Signing OJ Howard absolutely points to saying, hey, we're going to use the tight ends a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I've yet to see that. Like, going based off of what we've seen, and I even see the point that Davis wasn't used as much until like week 10. I understand that. But when it matters in the playoffs for the last 2 years, he has been used, not Knox.
Right.
And that's not a knock on Knox.
Right.
Excuse the pun there. But, it's absolutely, I don't know. I just think it's a wide receiver league. It's a wide receiver. Like the game is geared towards wide receivers right now. And as much as I love Knox, I'm keeping Davis.
Yeah.
Because every year we draft guys, right? You draft a wide receiver. Yeah. All these teams draft receivers.
Every year.
But every year, not every single team hits on a wide receiver. Just because these guys come out and it's like, oh man, this year we're deep at wide receiver. There's possibly 15 wide receivers with a first round grade, and these guys are going to be so amazing. And then 2 of them hit. Like some of them have solid performances.
You're right.
But when we're talking about hit, like everything that we're seeing from the Buffalo Bills is pointing towards Gabriel Davis becoming a star in his offense.
Yeah, I would agree.
And if you're going to have that Batman and Robin thing, like we talked about last week with Eric Mose and
Peerless Price,
you keep that. You got the quarterback, you got the receivers. Stop us for the next 5 to 6 years. Stop us.
A lot of great comments. Charles G says, love Knox, but the Bills' offense rolls on without a hitch if he's out. Without a hitch? I don't know.
Without a hitch,
I don't know. Chris Janke, the real Chris Janke, says, I really hate these choose one questions. I leave these decisions to Brandon Bean. That is a cop-out, Chris Janke, and we will not accept that on the Hump Day Hotline.
Let me ask you this, though, because this is a point I was going to make last night, but the energy on the show was so good, so I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So say a Patriots fan is in the comments now, and a Patriots fan is telling you, I really wish the Bills would move on from Diggs and actually, promote that guy Davis. How would you feel about that?
You are out of your effing mind.
Okay. I have an issue when we do that in specific spaces or communities. There's no need to down one person to uplift another.
It's not downing.
If you're not. No. I'm not. I'm. This is something completely separate. It's not about what you're saying. I just wanted to make a point real quick.
Okay, go.
There is no need to down one person to uplift another. True. If you have a positive comment to make about somebody, it doesn't have to be move on from Diggs so we can love on Davis. It doesn't have to be that. They both can be successful. And if you want to give love to Davis, let's give love to Davis. I just had to throw that out there because I get tired of people putting all these people against each other when there's no need to.
No, that's good. That's good. I appreciate it. Jessica Tennis says Davis was hardly used until week 10 last year. That is true. And he should have been used more. And then this is for you. My mom finally showed up.
Hey, Mom.
Better late than never, Mom. I mean, the show happens every week at 8:00, but better late than never. 7:00.
And I felt so bad last week because I didn't acknowledge you. I'm so sorry.
Seth says, I trust Davis to make the catch more than Knox. I would agree with that marginally. In his first 2 seasons, 100%. I trust Davis way more. They're closer to me now. However, I will say this, and I went back. I took your advice, and I went back and I watched the Bills-Chiefs game. The AFC playoff game against the Bills and the Chiefs. The catches that Davis made, I thought about it when it happened. I thought about after it happened, and I thought about it. I think the first time I rewatched it. Some of those catches weren't easy. Like 2 of them, he was wide open, which sometimes is harder to catch a ball. We've all been there in the backyard. You're all by yourself. All I gotta do is catch this, and you don't. And then there was the last one where the ball was trailing him. So he almost had to kind of like awkwardly stop and stick his hands out strangely. Those were A+ catches. Like the catch that Gabe Davis had. They were phenomenal catches.
2 years in a row. 2 years in a row, we've seen Gabe Davis show up in the playoffs. 2 years in a row.
Yep.
I love Knox. I want Knox to succeed. I want an all Madden team. Like I want to roll it out to where you can't stop any position, regardless of who's in, regardless of who's not. Like I want Knox to eat. I want Howard to eat. I want Moz Motor. I want James Cook to eat. I want everybody to eat. Like I want 2,000-yard wide receivers and an 850-yard tight end. Give me that. Give me that offense where we have 1,000-yard running back and another one rushing for 750. Give me that offense. I want that. I want the Colts from back when Peyton Manning was there with Harrison and give me that. Give me that.
That was when it was Harrison and I could see his face. I can't think of his name. Who's the other guy? The guy that came in after Harrison.
I can see his face too.
Chris Jenke knows who it is. Chris Jenke actually says, I take this question on a money perspective. It's less expensive to replace a starting tight end than it is to replace a wide receiver number 2. It's true, but it's way easier to replace a wide receiver 2 than a starting tight end, in my opinion. But yeah, so super chat from JR. What's up, buddy? Good to have you part of the show. We have to keep Ed Oliver. So as much as we're talking contracts and have been through most of the show, I don't think anybody necessarily disagrees with that. Where are you at on that?
I agree. We got to keep Oliver. I don't know. I think part of bringing Von Miller here was a direct investment into Ed Oliver, into Groot, and into Boogie Basham. So I think the reason why you bring, Reggie Wayne is the guy we're talking about. But the reason why you bring, and again, this is not a shot at anybody who's no longer on the team. I love Jerry Hughes, but the reason why you upgrade Jerry Hughes' position is because you're making an investment in your younger guys to try and be just a little bit more than what we've had. And Jerry has been great for us. He's been one of those guys that I don't think many people will argue about the idea of having him be on the wall when his career is over. Like, we love Jerry, but there's a clear difference when you're talking about Von Miller versus Jerry Hughes.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's all I've got. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I mean, towards the end of the show here, it was a good conversation. Steve says, if you want a Madden team, sign Odell. Out of the elite teams, we have the weakest.
Who's getting cut from that football team? We can't cut people from the football team now. Who's getting cut from this football team to sign Odell Beckham?
Man, I cut somebody. But you know how I feel about OBJ. Like, OBJ's my guy. I love that dude. I would cut somebody. I don't know who got to get cut, but somebody getting cut. Somebody got to go.
That is amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have been tuned into the Hump Day Hotline on the Buffalo Rumblings Vodcast Network, and this is what's up. So, minicamp, 3 days of mandatory minicamp has now been cut down to 2, which means all of the good football conversation for the rest of the summer pretty much has been ended because the Buffalo Bills staff, Sean McDermott, feels like their team is ready to go into the break. This is what my advice to you is. Do not wish your summer away. You've heard me say it 100 times. Summer, especially if you live in the Northeast in Buffalo, where Jay Spence is from, where I currently live, it's 10 weeks. We only get 10 of them. Don't wish away 6 of them because you can't wait for Bill season to get here. There's a big break coming up. It's going to be very much nothing going on in the NFL outside of a potential contract extension for Jordan Poyer. Do not wish your summer away. Enjoy the summer. Take it in. Relax, rest, get ready for the season. But, that's all I've got to say about that. Do you have anything to close us out with?
I'd agree with that. Spend some time with your friends, spend some time with your family members, enjoy the weather, enjoy, there's always festivals during the summer.
Oh yeah.
Strawberry Festival is coming up on Main Street out there. You know what? I do want to say something. This weekend will be the Juneteenth Festival in Buffalo.
Yep.
If you have never been down to the Juneteenth Festival, a lot of people have been asking me since everything happened down on Jefferson with Tops, how can I get involved? How can I help? You want to help? Let's start forging relationships between communities and come and be a part of the things that the Juneteenth has been an amazing festival in Buffalo for a long time. And I know, like, just within the last couple of years now, it's become more known on a national scale. go down there and see what this thing is about. There's good food, there's good music, good dancing. There's a lot of good energy down there. And I know this year, especially because of what happened in our community, is going to be one of those things that it's just going to be an amazing time. So if you want to get down there, please look it up. Go down there. It's always down at Martin Luther King Park. There's a parade that goes from like Bailey and Genesee all the way down. It's just going to be amazing. So you want to do something this weekend, get out to the Juneteenth, spend some time on the east side with some good people. Go and spend some time and get some good food.
Very good. So for myself, for Jay Spence the King, you've been tuned in to the Hump Day Hotline. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.